makes you appreciate pants more than pissing in a urinal with shorts on. You know what I'm saying? You're like, wow,
dude, I never realized that till the other day.
Yeah, like, is this every day?
Is this a
yeah? It's
thing?
every
I never
time.
See any pee on my pants,
every time.
Yeah, I know. But you're pissing in a urinal, and you're like, why is my leg
just
because
you don't feel it with your jeans doesn't mean that you're not pissing on yourself.
It's crazy. It is nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Summertime, you're just much more aware of it. You're like, oh, what's that? Oh,
yes.
There's a leak. Oh no, that's oh god.
Okay. Yeah.
You'd think after all these years, 2023 would have figured out how to make a fucking urinal so you don't just piss all over yourself every time you go.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
so
so
it was
glad
only in the
not
bars,
just
but
operator,
apparently,
you know,
no, you're doing all right, buddy.
It
it's not
to
just
somebody
you.
else. I thought I was doing it wrong. I'm like, you're all right. I'm like doing it. I'm like, I must be. I don't know. I haven't figured out the distance.
Second guessing.
Like, do I stand super far away? Yeah. Do
Every
I
once in a while you run across like a urinal design too, and you're like, man, why aren't they all like this one? And then you'll never see one like that again.
You never see one like that again. I think maybe you just stand 6 feet away. Don't worry about the divider that's supposed to be there. Just stand 6 feet away and then just pee all over the floor once you get to the end of the stream.
That's what's going to happen anyways, right?
A whole lot of splash on your legs. Yeah, for sure. But that is
this has started out on such a good note.
Happen, so
yeah, wow.
Well,
off with a bang.
Starting her off with a bang. On that note, we should wrap it up here. See you guys tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're going to let Logan go practice his public restroom usage.
Thanks for tuning in. Yeah.
Report back.
I should get a urinal in my house just to practice, just so I can practice. Like 4 different styles.
If Lacey's not close to divorcing you, that will for sure top it. That'll add the icing on the fucking cake right there. How can I get my wife to leave me? Honey, I bought this urinal just for me to practice on. Hell, dude, honestly, the kids could probably use it just as much.
I'm not even putting it in the kitchen. I'm just going to put it outside. You know what I'm saying? Just
I was going to say, that'd be perfect.
Outside so that I can practice. That would be absolutely.
The boys would be in on it quick.
Oh, dude. Yes, they would. They would be all about it. It would fit right in right now. Our place looks like a trap house. I've been so busy in the last 2 weeks. I got grass up to mid-shin in the yard, and then now I have time to mow the grass, and it's rained every day. And Lacey's like, "Are you gonna mow every day?" She's like, "Are you gonna mow today? Are you gonna mow today?" I'm like,
"Once it dries out,
mow as soon as it stops raining. I can't mow."
She just wants to see you in that cutoff shirt.
I thought maybe it is. Maybe that is what it is. I mean, I guess that's a realistic possibility. But at any rate, yeah. So some urinals in the back would go fine. If somebody has an El Camino that I could take the tires off of and just put on blocks in the front yard.
You got the sheep and the wild farm animals running around. You're already doing it.
And the motor home in the driveway. We're like really close. The only thing we're missing is the actual meth. If we had actual meth, we would be set.
You remind me of a Gretchen Wilson song. She's from your neck of the woods, I think.
Somewhere over here. Speaking of Gretchen Wilson, Lacey's going to be on a ranch rodeo team. It's like an all-girl ranch rodeo or whatever.
How did that
she
translate?
Got asked to be on this ranch rodeo team, and I'm like, oh, because they came up, the name that they came up with was like the Wrangling Women, and Lacey was like, I am not in some sort of Gretchen Wilson song. I refuse for that to be.
He landed the plane,
and so sorry, I circled it back, but it's October 6th, so I'm really excited. I'm gonna get so much content. Make so much fun of her. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty.
That's gonna be awesome.
So, yeah,
you should get
some like. She'll do fine.
You should wear your chaps and your hat, and maybe you can put some chinks on and tuck your boots in. Oh, it would be good. Ranchy.
Totally. We're like the Ranchy Wyoming Logan. like flat brim hat.
Yeah,
too,
and like a little vest. Like a Lonesome Dove vest.
Yeah, a little vest. Some gloves with the fringe. I need that's what I really need. Some big old long gloves that come halfway up your forearm with the fringe. That would complete the look, I think.
I love how he's acting like he doesn't have those right now. We all know.
I did actually have those. I did actually have those when I was in college.
Gloves are on.
Yeah, no. Gloves.
You want to see what happens when the gloves are off.
You don't want to see what happens. The kids are running, screaming. Dad's got his gloves on. Yeah, so
I can always count on you to take it one step further.
Yeah. Anyway, one step too far. One step too far. It's like everybody can relate, and then Logan takes it to that spot where there's one person listening to our podcast of the 1,000 that tune in, and they're like, I got it. Everybody else is like, okay, it's too far, but there's one guy out there that's like,
everyone else is like, what's CPS's number?
Totally relates.
Yeah.
That ain't no joke. That is not a. That hits a little too close to home, I think. Actually.
That's what
Oh, that's funny, guys.
Wow.
Well,
oh my goodness.
We have dramatically
sleep deprived.
This.
I don't even remember what we're talking about
here
today.
We're talking about sleep today, which I'm pumped about because this just proves this is what happens when you don't sleep enough. Logan's just getting back from 2 weeks of pretty much just rodeoing production side, so he hasn't slept at all.
Yep.
Paul never sleeps, and I have been on a weird schedule where I have been super busy. Last week, did not sleep a lot. My Whoop was telling me that I need to catch up, so really focused on it this weekend. And I got 3 nights, 99 to 100% of my sleep, and I still wasn't in the green. I was like, gosh damn it. But it just shows that. But on 4th day, I'm back in the green, ready to roll. But it kind of shows what happens to your body, and we don't feel it. If I didn't have this Whoop on, I wouldn't know that I was not ready to go push my body hard. What it's telling me is like, you're just not ready to go work out very hard. You still need to go move. You just need to keep that under this certain level of strain throughout the day. So I just paid attention to that. Well, it made a really intentional plan to be in bed and not even asleep early, just be in bed laying there resting, because what that's doing is just setting me up to eventually fall asleep. And I fall asleep a lot faster than I would if I'm like sitting downstairs and thinking about, oh, I need to go to bed. Like, I'm not tired. It's like, well, you're also not tired because you're sitting up and you're watching TV. So I've been doing a few things. I'm going to talk about those.
That's been my struggle lately.
The TV?
That's been my struggle lately, and I've been thinking about, I haven't worn my Whoop. Well, not the TV so much, but like, just going from 100 to trying to bring it down to 0 and fall asleep. And it could be the TV, it could be, any number of activities or whatever we're doing like throughout the day, but it's like we're coming from, going full blast to trying to say, okay, it's time to fall asleep, and it doesn't work like that ever. And I don't think I've worn my Whoop since maybe January or something. But like you said, sleep has been rough lately. And I'm thinking about cracking it back out just because it is a really helpful sleep tool for sure.
Yeah, man. I just use it as a benchmark, if you will, on all the numbers. Like, I'm not so bought into what they mean that it messes my day up when it's in the red or it's in the yellow. It's like, no, this is just telling you where you are in comparison to your baseline. So if your baseline is here and you're a little bit lower today, that's good to know. So that way you can adjust your training, adjust your recovery, sleep being one of those things, your nutrition, whatever it is. And you can kind of really dial it in. And that's why I like the Whoop, is because it shows me what the trend is. Am I trending towards a healthier lifestyle, or am I not recovering? Is something not working right? You can tell a lot by your internal signals a lot sooner than your external. And a really good example of that is when I get sick. My Whoop's telling me I'm sick 2 days before I feel it. And I'm like, what is this? Like, I'm fine. I feel great. And then 2 days later, I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't feel so good. It's like, oh, that's what your body, that's what it was trying to tell you, So it's just good to track the trends. But sleep, it right now is tough. It's hard to come by. I was just talking with Richie and Bennett, I don't know, 20 minutes before this, and we were talking, they're up in Strathmore, and they go Strathmore to Glasgow, Montana, to Lovington, New Mexico, to Hermiston, Oregon in 3 days. So I'm like, oh my gosh, you're not sleeping. I remember that stretch as a total bitch. And that's just is what it is for the season, right? But we have to understand, why it is important to catch up eventually, to use those next 3 days where you're off to focus on getting that sleep. So the importance of sleep, bottom line for everyone, but rodeo athletes, I think is the performance side of things. No matter what you think, that's repetitive days. Yeah, go ahead, Logan.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that's exactly, I think a lot of people think about sleep, and our culture says like, I can sleep when I'm dead, and so we think about like sleep as being this thing about like longevity, and overall health. And while that's definitely true, I think we really, as a rodeo culture, Western sport culture in general, we really under prioritize sleep for performance. It affects your day to day. I mean, it's amazing how much, once I learned about how much my sleep affects just say like my cognitive ability, recording podcasts. We started recording podcasts. I started paying attention. There's some days where I feel like I'm really on my stuff and I can dive in and talk, and I've got quick comebacks for all the crap that Doug wants to give me. And then there are other days where I just have to lay there and take it because I can't come up with anything. And I'm like, and I've noticed a big trend with my sleep, and you can't help but draw conclusions. Sure, we don't have any clear-cut studies on sleep and rodeo athletes specifically yet. We will, but we have to be able to connect the dots between all the other research that we have around sleep and elite athletes. And then we look over at rodeo athletes and we're like, oh, those guys are getting hosed, because it does dramatically affect your performance day in and day out.
Yeah, and especially when you get into long strings of that. These guys have been rodeoing hard. They haven't been sleeping a lot. So it's going to go down. Your performance is going to decrease usually. Your immune activity is going to decrease. Like there's all kinds of things that are going to happen that we've got to counteract. And the number one way to do that is to try and get sleep when we can. So on days that do permit, when you're on the road, let's talk about some practical sleep tips, strategies for rodeo athletes to help them kind of establish that consistent sleep routine. Even I really want to talk about sleep hygiene, like setting up your actual plan for sleeping, right? I have same thing as I warm up in my workouts. I have a sleep routine. I have things I do every single night before I go to bed, and now they were my routine. My body knows when I start doing those things, like central nervous system, it's time to decompress and really, really start focusing on going to bed. And it's nuts. The more and more I've done it, the quicker it happens. The quicker I can just lay down after doing my recovery and go right to sleep. And some things that I think can help rodeo athletes are, well, if you're in a camper or a trailer, making sure it's blacked out is going to be number one. You got to have no light in there. I think you have a really big benefit if you're running a generator, because it's like that ambient noise. And I don't know about you guys, but I always sleep so damn good when I'm in a camper or a trailer, or I lived on a tour bus for 2.5 years. That probably has something to do with it. But when those Jennies are running, like I'm out cold and it's dark, it's the best thing ever. When I don't have something like that, and to replace it, I have been doing brown noise. So I got Spotify has some playlists and stuff. You can put brown noise on. It's just ambient noise. Honestly, after the first 5 seconds that's on, you don't even hear it going on. It's just this, but when it turns off, you will hear it for sure. I love it. It's great. It's a 12-hour podcast is what they say, because they can't run a song longer than a certain amount of time. So they make them podcasts. It's 12 hours just running brown noise. And so I put that onto I've got to have background noise. I used to sleep with the TV on. And I didn't realize that the light was messing with me a ton while I was sleeping. So that brown noise is really, really helpful. And then I do mobility every night before I go to bed. So brush my teeth, get out my mobility tools. I've got a hip hook that works on my psoas and my hip flexors, a couple variations of lacrosse balls that I work on my shoulders, thoracic, and then my neck. And I'll do that for about, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, something like that. And then I'll lay in bed and put my mouth guards in. I clench my teeth really hard. And if you guys deal with any of that, mouth guards can be really helpful. And also, I didn't know it, but I was having neck tension because I was clenching my teeth so hard in my sleep that tension in my jaw was radiating in the back of my head. Then I tape my mouth shut I know I've talked about it a little bit, but I've been using hostage tape now for a while, for 4 or 5 months. And I cannot tell you the immense difference in my sleep quality when I do not tape my mouth shut. It is insane. Absolutely insane. So I tape my mouth shut every night. They sell hostage tape. You can get it from them. It's super easy. It's like KT tape, the product. It's not like athletic tape. It's stretchy tape and sticks to facial hair. No problem. You just kind of have to rub it in and make it stick, but it flexes with your face. So it moves. So you're not just like really constricted. And man, it's been a game changer for me. And then something else I've added in is the red light. XTI is a company that's been doing a lot of research on animals and athletes on red light recovery, increasing your recovery. I've been getting that for about 45 minutes every night and just have it on while I'm laying in bed watching TV or talking with Al or whatever. That seemed to be helping a ton. So there's a lot of things that go into my sleep routine. We start trying to break that down for on the road. You probably can't do all of those things, but honestly, if you had the means to get them done, you definitely could hook all those things up and do all that in your camper or trailer, no problem. But let's start at a elementary level. Let's start at the very bottom, someone who's never thought about a sleep routine. What are some things they can do besides blacking it out and having some ambient noise? What are some things that you guys would recommend? Or is that it?
Well, I think if we unpack the big rocks that you were just talking about, like mobility or even just static stretching, I'll notice like if I lay in bed and I'm feeling really restless, that just getting up and doing 6 minutes on the floor of like static stretching can kind of reset things, and it sends that signal to it's like, hey, it's time to wind down here. We're gonna rest and relax. I think that's huge. I think blacking out the camper or whatever your sleep area is, all hotels have those big heavy blackout curtains for a reason. I think that's probably going to be a big one. And then something else that you had mentioned was you were sleeping with a TV on. I know tons of people that do that, and like what we found is through there's studies on it. There's whole podcasts you can listen to on it. It's horrible for your the light disruption is horrible for your sleep pattern, and and that can even come down to the thickness of your eyelids. Some people's eyelids are thinner than others, and so more light comes in even when your eyes are closed, and so that disrupts your sleep patterns. And so things that I think rodeo athletes can really take away is no strenuous mental or physical activity within an hour before bedtime. Dimly light your sleep environment or completely black it out. Again, probably an hour before bedtime. You said you use the red light before you go to sleep. Like that would be something helpful. We have the salt lamps. So it's just that dim glow. You can still, move about your space and not trip over things with the glow from that light. But it's not so disrupting that it's going to cause anything with any negative side effects to your sleep pattern. And then they can do some mobility. Like I think those are the big rocks that they can move. If they want to venture further, they could invest in, the mouth tape, or they could invest in, some of these other tools. But, like I think those are pretty accessible things that pretty much anybody can incorporate, and they are going to make the biggest difference in your bedtime routine.
Yeah. I don't disagree at all. I also think the temperature plays a huge role. 62 to 68 degrees is ideal, and that's a lot of the reasons why when you're like Doug in a tour bus or in a camper, you got that air unit. I don't know if anybody slept in the top bunk of a Capri with the air conditioner wide open. It gets way cooler than 62 degrees up in that sucker. But a lot of times that's why we sleep so good in there, is because you're in that small space with such a decent air conditioner. You're able to get it so cool. And so getting that temperature, 68 degrees is what we will set. We usually bump it up to 70 or 71 during the day, but that's like part of my bedtime routine. Before I go and get in bed, I just bump it down to 68, and it's insane. On nights where I forget to turn it down and it's 70 degrees, it's 2 degree difference.
You can't feel,
and I will wake up. I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm like, why am I hot? I'm hot. And I'll go look, and it's sure enough, it's just 2 degrees. For me, the big thing I think for all of these things that we've mentioned, and there's probably more that we'll get into, but all the big things that we've talked about so far, the main thing is consistency. And for Doug, with Doug's lifestyle and the things that he's got going on, he can be really consistent with those things. You know, Paul can be really consistent. And as you're traveling and you've got lots of stuff, trying to incorporate things, whether it's the mouth tape or mobility or the temperature, sometimes you're not in control of the temperature. And that's, you know, we go stay with other people, or I mean, you're just not in control of it. But one thing that I do every single night before I go to bed is I read. It might be my Bible. It might be a journal article. It might be, I'm not reading for education purposes necessarily. I'm not trying to necessarily even retain this information, but it's a way. Some nights it's for 5 minutes. I'm exhausted. But that, like when I lay down and we've got our salt lamp on and I can read, that's something that I can do anywhere. When we were at OPA and I'm sleeping on the bottom bunk of the bunkhouse, I can crack open my Bible and read for 5 minutes, 10 minutes while everybody's kind of winding down. I can do it in a hotel room. I can do it anywhere I'm at, no matter what's going on. I can always spend at least 5 minutes reading. And I think that really sends that signal like, hey, okay, cool. It's the end of the day. We're winding down. I'm working on my breathing and I'm doing a little bit of reading. And that's something that has been really easy for me to be able to be consistent with, no matter where I'm at or what my schedule's like.
Louis L'Amour books are what I like to read before bed.
Absolutely.
Because it's a fiction book, but it's something that I enjoy. And like, you know, we all fantasize as cowboys of like, you know, the old days. And so like it takes me out of my current state of, you know, day-to-day stress, worrying about the kids, worrying about finances, worrying about whatever. And I get to go transport myself into kind of like a different time and place. And man, what that does to my mindset right before I fall asleep, it's insane. Like it helps me fall asleep and stay asleep so much better. You know, so if you're going to read, probably don't read something that, like Logan was saying, that you're going to want to or need to retain. Like don't try and make it an educational part of your life. Like let it be something that's going to try and calm you down. And I love Louis L'Amour books for that.
Heck yeah, dude. Both of y'all have a good routine with the reading, which is awesome. Again, it's something that you've done enough times now too, that your body recognizes that it's your wind down and that it's how you are getting ready to go to sleep. So I used to do that too. And I could just I would pick up a book and not even get halfway through the page and I'd be out.
Yeah, it was zonked.
So, yeah, it's just whatever works for you. I think that's a really good tool to use for rodeo athletes right now. You know, all the things that we just listed are very, very simple things to implement in your routine. You're not having to take much time out of your daily life to do them. They should be already pretty much part of what you're doing to go to bed anyways. You're just adding a different step to them. So mobility, taping your mouth shut, blacking out the room, getting that temperature right, 62 to 68 degrees. And then, you know, we talked about some dimming the lights, red light, all of those things would be extras. But the core, I think, would be at the light in the room, the temperature. 2 things. That's it. And the light, you know, falls under TV. It falls under all those things. So if you're having trouble sleeping, those are 2, and you aren't doing 2 of those things, those may help. Let's talk about a nap. As rodeo athletes, these guys and girls, like I said, pretty much just driving for 3 days straight. They've got to sleep a little bit. I think a nap is a valuable tool for rodeo athletes to help replenish the energy, improve their, you know, alertness, their cognitive function, like Logan was talking about, and give themselves a little bit of an edge when it comes to performance. And I know it's easy to kind of get, you know, you switch drivers. You're like, all right, we got an hour to the rodeo. It's like, oh, fuck it. I'm just going to stay up. If I go to sleep now, I'll be tired when I wake up. Dude, actually, if you catch about 20 minutes, I was reading an article the other day, I studied, and it was 15 or 20 minutes. Go ahead.
20 minutes. There's 2 increments. 20 minutes or 40 minutes are the optimal nap intervals. So like longer than 40 minutes, you're going to run into that really groggy feeling when you wake up. But if you can nap at 20 minutes, or you can nap, if you can even double it and go to 40 minutes, like those are going to be the 2 optimal napping intervals that are going to allow you to wake up and actually feel refreshed rather than like have that run down, like groggy feeling.
Yeah. It's man, and I firsthand have experienced that. I always want to sleep longer after those 20-minute naps. I'm like, no, I was just like sleeping so hard. It was so great. And then I wake up and once I get up, I'm great. I'm good to go. But if I do sleep longer than that 40 minutes and get into that hour, I'm sleeping for 2 hours probably. and I'm going to be out, and it's going to kind of mess up my path. It's just how I know myself. If I stay asleep, I will, or try to stay laying down, I'll be asleep for much longer. So guys, girls, get that nap in. Make sure you use your time how you can. Like 20 minutes, 40 minutes is the perfect time frame to be take advantage of, and a little nap to
have a little forethought on those.
Yeah.
On those long drives, like when you know like the nap is going to be the only thing you're going to get, like you better take advantage of it. And, you know, planning your runs to where you're not going to have, you know, multiple days in a row where you're going to be on those all night drives or whatever it is. Like you were talking about, you know, Caleb and Richie having that 3 day, but I would imagine they're probably going to take a day or two off after that. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they have time now where they can prepare, and they can kind of, you can't necessarily stock up on sleep, but they can optimize their sleep. They can optimize their nutrition. They can optimize their hydration beforehand heading into it so that they are ready to take on that really challenging, you know, 3 day run or 4 day run. Because when it comes down to it, like there's only so much you can do during that time to mitigate the lack of sleep. But you can take time beforehand by planning ahead, and you can set yourself up to be the most resilient human being that you can during that time. And then afterwards, you can take the time to recover as well.
Absolutely, man. That's so important to have that forethought, to look ahead at your schedule and say, okay, where can I plan action for whatever it is, whether it's sleep, working out, eating correctly, just chilling out. There, you know, if you look ahead,
probably
you can
minimizing alcohol before that too.
Yeah. Alcohol is not going to help you.
Try and stay away from the alcohol if you got one of those coming up.
And at the very end, when you're done and you want to have a beer or two, by all means, go ahead. But in between all that driving and all those things, it is not going to help your performance. It's not going to help your sleep. And so overall is not a good addition to your routine. But we aren't your dad. So do what you do.
But that, I think that's the most common misconception though, right? I mean, I was just talking with a guy the other day who was like, man, a nightcap. If I ever have a hard time going to sleep, I just have, 3 fingers of whiskey and I'm out like a light. Best sleep I ever have. And I'm like, okay. I know that like you probably feel like, because we're shutting off that frontal lobe, so it probably feels like you're going into a deep rest, but you're actually not, and we're not getting the best part of sleep. Are you sleeping? Sure. Are you getting the best part of sleep? The reason that sleep is important, as we touched on earlier, is for muscle recovery and cognitive function, all the things that are important, and we're skipping a lot of that when we have alcohol before we go to bed. Even one drink within 6 hours of sleep can affect. So again, we're not your parents, and I'm not telling you that alcohol is from the devil and that you can never have a drink. However, planning those drinks could definitely be very helpful when it comes to like, hey, we got a crazy rodeo schedule. We've got to leave tonight and go to the next one. I'm probably going to skip the beer tent, and I'm going to wait until maybe I do have a day off or something like that. And then okay, cool. We've got some time, have a couple drinks. It's no big deal if I don't recover that well, because I do have a day off or 2 days off or whatever.
Yeah. Alcohol only acts as a sedative. So like what Logan was saying, like it's going to put you in an unconscious state, but we complete the biggest or the longest and most reparative step of deep sleep happens within the first 20 minutes of you falling asleep. And it's going to completely bypass that section of sleep when you have alcohol in your system. And that can be as little as 1 drink. And that was something that I did track when I was wearing my Whoop regularly. I would track alcohol. I'd kind of run a little experiment and see like how much alcohol affected me. 1 Coors Light within an hour of bedtime would ruin my sleep for the night. I could drink 6 Coors Light throughout the course of the day, but as long as it was 4 hours before I went to bed, no problem, because it had enough time to be metabolized and get out of my system. But even 1 within that hour period or whatever before bedtime, it would totally destroy that deep sleep pattern, and you wake up feeling unrested.
It's wild, man. I hate it. I hate that it does that to us, but it's a fact.
I know. I can't. Why does it got to do that?
Yeah, for sure. It is. It's a bummer because like socially, it's fun to have some drinks with friends and enjoy those times. And you just know that you're going to pay for it, right? I guess it is kind of a bummer, like being in the situation we are. This is our life. We study these things all the time. So we know exactly what we're doing to ourselves when we start doing it. And you're like, it makes it hard sometimes for me to like go out there and enjoy it. But to what you just said, not saying you should drink in the morning, but if I drink earlier in the day and stop way earlier in the day by like 5 p.m. at the latest, and I've got that 4 or 5 hours before I go to bed, I'm hydrating and taking care of myself. Yeah, I sleep great. I don't have a problem. But if I've had a drink within 2 hours of going to bed, my sleep is going to be shit. And so you may not feel it right when you wake up. You may feel like you've had a shitload of good sleep, but you haven't. You just turned off that frontal cortex, said, I'm going to numb you, and boom, you're out like a light. So it was good to bring up alcohol, Logan, or whoever did. It's really important. Let's talk about, just to wrap this up.
I'll take credit for it.
Yeah, go ahead, Logan. We don't give you credit for much, so.
Got to take it where you can get it.
I hope this episode helped some people listening. It wasn't meant to go into super detail about, the stages of sleep. We're just talking about, at a minimalist approach, how can somebody work on their sleep hygiene, set up a better sleep program or routine, whatever they want to call it, and get more out of their body and their training, their performance, all of it. Your nutrition. We've talked about pieces of the puzzle before. If we're missing a piece of the puzzle looks kind of janky. Well, one of the pieces is definitely sleep, guys. You've got to put sleep in. You've got to pay attention to it. Again, we are well aware that you are not going to be getting optimal sleep right now. That's just the sport and the season that we're in. Get some sleep when you can. Plan out naps. When the season ends, catch up. Take some time away from what you're doing. Focus on you. Focus on that sleep. Promise the debt is probably real high when you get home from the sleep debt. So let's try and get that back so we can attack the next stage, the next part of the season with that much more intensity and drive. Guys, as always, we got to thank our sponsors. Beastmaster Rodeo, been with us since day one, the elite rodeo gear company in the world. Check them out, beastmasterrodeo.com. Use our discount code CHAMPIONLIVING, all one word, going to be caps locked, uppercase for that. Going to save you 10% on all their products. And HOOEY Brands. Guys, everyone loves HOOEY. We're wearing their ball caps right now. Honestly, you're not going to catch me not wearing anything of theirs. I love it. Best jeans out there, rocking shirts, and ball caps. Use our discount code CHAMPIONLIVING. One word, not case sensitive there. Going to save you 10% on all HOOEY Brands gear. Guys, until next time, we'll catch you later.